classification of senior active, formerly government city fire department. We know him because we first met him when he provided the stability and leadership we all needed desperately following the bombing of the Murrah building. We became reacquainted with Gary when he comforted so many of us after the 1999 F5 tornado. He's still doing heroic work in our city as the Ward 1 representative on the Oklahoma City Council, a position he was elected to in a special election in 2004 and was re-elected in 2005 and 2009. We all know that Gary is very active in our community, serving on numerous boards and commissions. He's one of our favorite people. He does great things, and he is our chair of the day. Please welcome Gary.
Thank you, President Marion. There's actually two people very nervous up here on this podium, I think, because talked to Marion last night on the phone, wrapping up the final details, and finally got to the end. I said, Marion, we'll just wing it. We'll make it work. And I paused, just kind of like, okay. I think she was a little bit nervous. And Jim's always nervous when I introduce him, because Jim and I go back quite a ways. A little known fact, Jim has always wanted to be the fire chief. Jim let me know when we were co-department heads, he was over the water and wastewater utility, and I was the fire chief. He let me know right away that the fire department couldn't operate without those fire hydrants out there. He couldn't understand why he wasn't the fire chief. Not that there wasn't many days I wanted to give that to him. But, before I say a few words about Jim himself, I thought I'd do a little city manager quiz. Some of you might like to hear some little tidbits. Jim is our 34th city manager in Oklahoma City. He has served, well, let me get to that in just a minute. The longest city manager serving before Jim served 6 years. Anybody have an idea who that might have been? Don Bound was the city manager. There's only one person that served more than once as city manager. Don Bound. Don actually served as an interim in between a couple of city managers, and then later on was actually named city manager. But Don only served he served 6 years. He was the longest serving up to then. It averages 3 to 4 years if you go down the list, averaging it out. Jim has been there almost 12. He really likes me about that. He just loves it when his council recognizes how long he's been around. Yeah. It does kind of scare you. Jim, and I won't go through the whole bio, it was in the paper and all of that, but just a couple of quick things. A lot of people don't realize that Jim's background is in engineering. He received his Bachelor of Science degree in Civil Engineering from South Dakota School of Mines and Technology, and he's a licensed professional engineer in Oklahoma and Colorado both. I found this out the hard way when I was the Chief of Staff to Kirk Humphreys for a short period of time. And because of that, you get to sit in the weekly meetings where you go over the agenda. And I made the mistake on one of the agenda items one time. It had a description of a type of concrete that was going to be used in a construction job. And I made the mistake of asking what that meant. Well, I knew I messed up when everybody in the room started to go to the bathroom. And about 45 minutes later, I knew everything I wanted to know about concrete. So, if you ever want to get a good conversation going with him, just ask him something to that effect. But all kidding aside, Jim has been an excellent city manager. He's been a good friend and has worked hard for the city of Oklahoma City. You'd be hard-pressed to find something that's going on in Oklahoma City that Jim hasn't had some involvement with at some time, for some time. Him and his wife Kathy have 2 sons. Both of them graduated from OSU. Both of them are gainfully employed, which Jim is very happy about at this point in time. So would you help me welcome our 34th city manager, Jim Couch?
Gary and I worked together for quite a while as when I was water director and he was the fire chief. And then when I became city manager, he worked for me for a short period of time. And now I work for him. So the lesson is, don't ever burn bridges. We're going to cover a few things today. We're going to talk a little bit about the Thunder, which was typed in the program, but I thought I'd also take a few minutes to talk to you a little bit about Project 180 and update on that, and then talk a little bit about MAPS 3 as we go forward. The Thunder is a very, very unique story, but to tell the story of the Thunder, you've got to go back and you've got to talk a little bit about the Hornets. Through the first MAPS initiative, Oklahoma City built an arena, and we thought we had a shot maybe about getting an NHL team. And there was a bid to put in with Mr. Bennett and Mr. Norrie back in the late 90s, and to get a hockey team, and we failed. We were unsuccessful. But we had a new arena built by the original MAPS that was built to both NBA and NHL standards. And so we had this great building. And when we built it, it came in fairly inexpensive. It was less than $100 million. $100 million is a lot of money, but in arena standards, not so much. Most arenas now are $300,000, $400,000, $500,000. I think the one in Brooklyn is in the $400 to $500 million range for the arena. But we had the building, and it was really drawing well for concerts for a period of time. It was one of the top drawing buildings in the U.S. for concerts. But we didn't have a sports tenant outside of the Blazers that were in there at the time. And then August 05 came, and Katrina came through and hit New Orleans. And New Orleans was no longer able to host the Hornets. And so quickly, within a matter of days, the NBA was looking for a place to host the Hornets. And there weren't a lot of buildings just sitting there that were built to NBA specs that had the ability to host the team, and quite frankly, had the dates. There were a few other buildings, but they didn't really have the dates to host the dates that needed to be hosted. And so they came to Oklahoma City. And it was a very short period of time. It was just a couple of weeks we had put this together in September of 05. And the NBA was quite convinced that we weren't going to be able to support an NBA team, but they didn't really have any other choices. And so we sat in negotiations with them, and they wanted us to guarantee that local revenues, which is a term of art for the NBA, would generate $40 million a year. And they wanted us to guarantee that $40 million a year. And boy, coming up with a $40 million, boy, that was pretty tough. And so we talked for a while, and we all agreed that, you know, the first 20, 25, it's going to happen, no matter how bad it spawns. You know, that first 25 or so is going to be guaranteed. So we came up with an agreement that we would only guarantee the last 10. So there'd be a benchmark at 30, and we didn't guarantee anything from 30 to 40. And those aren't the exact numbers, but those are close to the numbers that came. And then after that, once we hit 40, then we got some of the upside. And so if it hit 40, then we would share the revenues beyond 40. And, you know, they weren't thinking that was really much of a chance that would happen. But that was the deal that was set out. And the Hornets came. They played actually 2 seasons, but I want to focus on the first season, because the first season was really important. And we said we had a 1-year agreement with a 1-year option with the Hornets. And they came in, and they did really well. And we blew past the 30, we blew past the 40, and actually got money back. The Hornets wrote us a check for being there in the profit sharing thing for over $1 million. And we were able to put that in an escrow account and use that money to help bring the Thunder to Oklahoma City. So actually, the Hornets paid to move the part of the But at no time has a city ever been given kind of a free pass to just try out a sports team and see what happens, especially the NBA. It was just kind of a very, very unique situation. When they came, Clay Bennett was involved, and he was in the meetings when we dealt with the NBA. Clay had a relationship with the NBA back from years. His family had an ownership position in the Spurs for a part of time. Clay actually sat on the board of governors for the Spurs for a period of time. And so, you know, he's about the only guy in town who knew anything about NBA basketball, and he was very happy to work with us, and he helped us negotiate the deal with the Hornets. And he went and got some significant sponsorships for the Hornets. And he actually took in a share of that $10 million guarantee. He got a little upside too on the end of it, but he actually took some of that risk for that $10 million. I don't think a lot of people know that. The state picked up part of that risk too. So we had that $10 million risk. The state picked up a third. Mr. Bennett and his friends, investors, picked up a third of that, and the city picked up a third. And that's how that played out. And he was able to get some investors to buy big sponsors for the Hornets. And those investors in the Hornets thought this is kind of cool, and that maybe we'd like to own an NBA team. So after a year's experience with the Hornets, they actually tried to buy the Hornets, and that was unsuccessful. And they went out and bought the Seattle Seahawks. But back to the Hornets, we did have a great year. Actually, a great 2 years. There goes the hammer. And it was an incredible success. And you know, people fell in love with the Hornets. Not to the level we fall in love with the Thunder, but it was a good couple of years with the Hornets. Then the Hornets went back to New Orleans after the second year, and Mr. Bennett and his ownership group stepped up, bought Seattle. They tried to get a new arena in Seattle. That did not happen. And they had certain deadlines to get a new arena. When that did not come to fruition, they were free to go elsewhere, and they made an application to the NBA to move the franchise to Oklahoma City. But before they were willing to come, they had to have some commitments. And one of those commitments was some improvements. The Ford Center, Chesapeake Arena now, but the Ford Center at the time, as I mentioned, was built for less than $100 million. And it was the right size, but it was pretty plain. It was a pretty pedestrian building. It had the right size and all the bones for an NBA team. It met their specs, but it was pretty plain. And so we put together a proposal to take to the voters in March of 2008 for a 15-month 1-cent sales tax to make improvements to the arena, now the Chesapeake Arena. And they're still under construction. They're finishing up. They should be done by this fall. The new entrance on the south corner, the southwest corner of the new restaurants, new offices for the team will be in there. But everything else has been done. The new scoreboard, the restrooms have all been done, the concessions have all been done, new restaurants, new floors, new ceilings, new lighting. We've changed it a lot in that time frame. And then we also had a commitment to do a new practice facility, and the new practice facility was completed last fall, and that's just north of town, next to the, just off Broadway in the Britain. The Thunder played their first season in Oklahoma City in 2008-09. In the team's fourth season, it brought the first NBA Western Championship to Oklahoma City, and we hosted 2 finals games in June. In terms of the agreement with the Thunder, it's a 15-year lease with an option for additional 5-year renewals of 3 years each. The city controls the scheduling, but the Thunder has priority for all home games. Naming rights belong to the team, but the team reimburses the city for the previous naming rights. When it was the Ford Center, the city got about $500,000 a year for the name of the Ford Center. And so we thought that was the base value of the naming rights without an NBA team, and anything the team can get beyond that, that's theirs, because they're bringing that because of the value of the NBA team. So they get anything north of that, and we retain our $500,000 a year. The team pays rent for the building, but I got to tell you, the building doesn't have debt. And that's one of the keys to the team being here, because for a small market, if you've got debt, you try to make debt service on that building, it's probably not going to work with a small market team. So one of the keys for the Thunder being here economically is because of the fact that there's no debt on that building. And you should all give yourselves a hand for voting that original mass project in. Then the finals came to town this year. Wow. We hosted more than 20,000 visitors for the playoffs. The finals were held on June 12th and 14th. Each game was attended by 18,000 guests. Most of them are regular season ticket holders, but 500 media and 700 staff were at the game. Sales of more than $1,000 a minute for concessions were held. That includes each game 2,500 hot dogs, 1,500 bags of popcorn, 8,000 sodas, 10,000 beers, unless Gary Mars is there, that's 10,001. And 5,000 bottles of water. The gross economic impact for a regular season game, we haven't really done the gross economic impact of the playoff games yet or for finals game. For a regular game, it's about $1.3 million. So it's beyond that for a playoff game, and beyond that even more for a finals game. But the image of Oklahoma City that's gone not only nationwide but worldwide, it reminds me of the MasterCard commercial. You know, the guy's going to Scandinavian, it's $2,000 for the ticket, $100 for the sweater, but you know, the trip, it's priceless. And that's kind of what the Thunder brings to Oklahoma City. It's just kind of priceless what they're able to bring to us on the image of Oklahoma City and the coverage, the positive coverage that we've got worldwide. It's incredible. So what do you do when the finals come to town? Well, you got to do a lot. You got to change the building setup. We had to build out 4 new media work areas, install 250 new video monitors, 500 new internet connections, 500 new phone lines, increase security. Everyone was being scanned going in. The floor decals, let's say the finals, those had to be changed out for each practice and for each game. They wanted to be, the league wanted pristine for each of those. Building setup, we converted Suite 20, which is at the end there, for a TV studio for ESPN, and we built out 2 other TV studio areas in the event level. The media was just incredible. We built a platform in the arena for broadcasting. The NBA finals were broadcast in 215 countries and 47 different languages. You know, we had enough streets closed down, so we figured it wouldn't hurt to close one more down. So we cut down our office. It was just a very, very special time for us. But you know, we just don't have a sports franchise in Oklahoma City. We've got the Thunder. And the Thunder is different from any other sports franchise. It's different from the quality that's established by the ownership group that we have. It's different by the quality and the integrity of men that are running the organization, like Sam Presti, like Danny Barth, who handles the non-basketball sides of the operation. Brian Byrne and Dan Mahoney is here, and Ryan O'Toole are here. The class, the professionalism that they bring all the way through with their organization, the type of players that they draft and bring in the organization, it's different than any other sports franchise in the country. And so it's great to have an NBA facility, or an NBA team in Oklahoma City, but it's a lot better to have the Thunder. Let's move on a little bit to Project 180. When Mr. Nichols decided with Devin that he wanted to build his corporate headquarters in downtown Oklahoma City, he had a development condition. His development condition was, if I'm going to make this major investment downtown Oklahoma City, I want a tax increment district set up. And I want the monies, the tax monies that we pay for a certain amount of time, the property taxes we pay, to be set aside and used not for his ground or for his parking garage or for anything else. He wants it to be used for public improvements. That's very, very unique. We want to be for public improvements. And those monies are specifically to be used to improve the parks and the roadways in downtown Oklahoma City. And so that's what we're doing. And I know that people ask me all the time, well, when are you going to be done with the improvements in downtown Oklahoma City? And I hope the answer is never. Now, we might get a couple phases done, but hopefully we've got other phases coming on down the line. And I'm going to spell out, we've got some work left to do. But Project 180 is really coming along quite well. The Myriad Gardens was reopened in October of last year. I hope you've all been down there and spent some time at some events down there. I was there Sunday night. There was a free concert down the lawn down there Sunday night. It was just great. Perfect weather, free concert, people, just a huge crowd down there. It was just a wonderful night. Some pictures of construction we've got, and then the final product of the Myriad Gardens. It was, you know, the Myriad Gardens was always kind of unique and neat, but it was kind of hard to get into, and it wasn't very friendly and such. And I really believe that the designers have just done a wonderful job of opening that park up, and it's a great new amenity for downtown Oklahoma City. Go to the next one. I love that shot. Next one. Pretty cool. Bicentennial Park, across between City Hall and the Civic Center, is going to look like this. It doesn't yet. Right now, it looks like this. And you can start to see it forming up here, but it's really a short construction project. It's going to be done in about 60 days. And trees, and it'll happen fast. A lot of the underground stuff's in, the walls are in, and it's going to come along quick. And it will be done for the anniversary of the Civic Center in March. Oh, I'm sorry, in September. More shots there. The streetscapes, which we're all familiar with. Let me tell you about the streetscapes. Go to the next slide, Randy. This map is a little hard to follow, but there are 7 streetscape projects. Project 1 is Reno and the brown, or whatever that color is, orange on the bottom. That's done. Project 2 is the purple around the memorial. That's done. Project 3 is the blue on the southwest corner of the map. That's done, except for some trees that need to be put down on the south side of Maine. Project 4 is the green, which kind of goes around, it's Sheridan and goes around the Devon building. All the paving is done on that. They just have amenity work to do, which is the sidewalks and the trees that are going in. So the stuff behind the curb is going in on that. And that will be done in really just a matter of weeks. Project 5 is the one around City Hall, the pink color up there, whatever color that is. That is not done. But it's about 60% done, and there's a lot of the pavement done, and that's going to finish up and ramp up pretty quick. And then we've got 2 other projects, Project 6 and Project 7, and we're not sure exactly. It'll be probably those streets, but they may change a little bit as which are in which package. And we hope to have one of those out to bid in December, January this year. But we've had 3 or 4 construction projects going on at the same time. On top of that, we've had Robinson shut down for the Ford Center. On top of that, we've had Sheridan and other streets shut down for construction of the Devon Tower. On top of that, we had Kerr Street shut down and Robinson shut down and narrowed for the Sandwich projects. On top of that, we had 2nd Street shut down over for the level apartments going on in Deep Deuce. And it is small project 180, but it's all progress for downtown Oklahoma City. And a lot of that stuff is starting to clean up. So as we get going forward, instead of 3 or 4 streetscape projects, we're only going to probably have 1 going on in the future. But hopefully we're going to have other things going on in downtown Oklahoma City, and hopefully we're going to shut down a few more streets as we go forward. Which leads us right into map 3. Now, map 3 is in the early stages where we haven't constructed anything. A lot of work's been going on. And by the way, we do need to recognize the chairman of the Maps 3 Advisory Committee, Tom McDaniels, who's done a yeoman's job of keeping it. Oklahoma City is a unique community, and it's really unique because of people like Tom McDaniels who spend his time and effort on a volunteer project like this to change the future of Oklahoma City. I really do appreciate Tom's untiring efforts toward this project. Maps 3, 7-year, 9-month project. It's $777 million. The projects include a 70-acre park, a rail-based transit, new downtown convention center, sidewalks, improvements to the river, health and wellness centers, and improvements to the fairgrounds. And I'll just give you a quick update on that. The downtown public park, big park downtown, acquisition of the upper park properties is underway with an expected completion date this year. The lower park property acquisitions are to begin in 2014. Demolition of the old federal post office has been complete. Several other small projects, structures have been completed. Consultants have been selected for the environmental and the engineering studies. And the master plan and the phase 1 design contract has been selected. Contract approvals will be sent to City Council for approval this month for the consultants of the park big design. Transit, the modern streetcar, the subcommittee has recommended a route and the proposed route is being investigated for utility and other possible conflicts. The Santa Fe Railroad Station has been recommended for the multimodal transit hub. The property appraisal is currently underway. An engineering consultant has been selected and the contracts are being presented in July to the City Council for approval for the consultant on the transit. The convention center site location study has been completed. The recommended site is between Reno and Old I-40 and Robinson and Walker. Site appraisals are underway and land acquisition is anticipated to take place in the next couple of months. The Oklahoma River, the race course starting system has been ordered, scheduled for the fall of 12. The race course lighting improvements are in final design with bids expected to be received, or they had been received. The contract will be awarded this month. The race course wind study is ongoing. Design consultants will be selected. They're actually interviewing this week for the whitewater facility for the river. The fairgrounds, state fair staff completed their update of the fairgrounds master plan. The plan was provided to the Map 3 Fairgrounds Committee for review. Phase 1 design consultant has been made. Phase 1 construction is scheduled to begin in the first quarter of 2013. The Oklahoma Trails Master Plan will be utilized as a guide for the Map 3 Trail project. Phase 1 has been divided into 2 trail sections. Design firms have been selected. Designs underway, and Phase 1 construction on trails will begin in 12, later this fall. And then sidewalks, the development of the sidewalk master plan is included, is underway with completion report of the report in July, and Phase 1 construction schedule will begin on the sidewalks again in fall of 12. So we haven't seen construction yet, but there's a lot going on. And if you figure that in the next, 6-7 years, we're going to be spending another $777 million of money for public improvements in downtown Oklahoma City. And hopefully we do these smart and well, so the private investment will follow this public investment. The future of downtown Oklahoma City is pretty bright. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. John? Yeah. I see a shadow, yes.
Jim, what do we do with the Fox Convention Center? What's the future for that?
Yeah, that's phase 2. Yeah, we don't. I don't know. That's going to be that's a great question, and that's something we're going to have to work with. But right now, it's a number of years before we have a new convention center, and so we've got some time to deal with that. That's going to be a great public policy question. And the question was, what do we do with the Cox Convention Center? I'm sorry, I didn't repeat the question. And the answer is, we don't know, but we've got time to deal with that. Yes.
What about parking for the downtown area with all this influx of new private?
Yeah, the question is, what about parking? Parking is becoming an issue in downtown Oklahoma City, and that's a good thing too. We are underway with design of a new parking garage between City Hall and the 420 building, just to the near west side of downtown. We're looking at some other options on some other facilities that we're still scouting out. But one of the key things we're doing is with Project 180, we've added about 700 parking spaces downtown on the streets with all the new parking spaces. So that's kind of like a parking lot just being added there. Parking meter installations have begun about 2 weeks ago, and they'll be going on over the next couple of months. But getting the construction guys off the streets and having those open and turned over on a regular basis, I think will be a huge add to the traffic availability downtown Oklahoma City.
One more question.
Status and timing of the boulevard.
Status of timing of the boulevard is a great question. The boulevard is on the old I-40 alignment. Right now, it's the new I-40, which opened up in January. It's kind of hard sometimes to get to the I-40, particularly western at 5 o'clock. It could be a little bit crazy. The I-40 is not done, and to help with that, you've got to be able to get the boulevard in to get the access over to the east and west. And so if you have a look, the demolition is going on very quickly. The old I-40 ODOT is an ODOT project, and ODOT is working with the city to prepare the design. They're probably it's going to be in 4 or 5 phases, and the first phase of that will probably go out to bid sometime this fall. And the goal all along was to be open, have the boulevard open at 14, and that would be done in coordination with some of the North Park, the Central Park being open at 14 too. So that's still the goal. But the fact of the matter is that you've got to look at I-40, the boulevard as one project, and it's necessary to get people in and out of the downtown Oklahoma City. With Project 180, we've taken out some lanes of traffic. Everything's 2 ways now, so we have less traffic capacity in downtown Oklahoma City. That's a good thing, because it's a much easier downtown to get around in, but we still got to be conscious of getting people in and out of downtown. We don't want to gridlock downtown. So thank you.
Exceptional job of kicking off this year. I think the city is truly blessed by the leadership of the Thunder, but we are certainly blessed by the leadership of our city council and by our city manager. So thank you very much for being here today. Next week's program is going to be incredible. It is going to build on the Rotary International mission to advance world understanding and peace. And then we'll also build on some relationships that we have already in Oklahoma City, specifically our Sister Cities program, which is a project of the city as well, and with the Institute for the Economic Empowerment of Women. Next week, we are going to have the Vice Mayor of Kigali, Rwanda, and the ambassador from the Republic of Rwanda as our speakers. I encourage you to be here tomorrow, next week. Meg Salyer will be our chair of the day. In closing, let me share a tradition that we have, which is our quote. And my quote is from Mark Twain. It says, 20 years from now, you'll be more disappointed by the things you didn't do than the ones that you did do. You did do. I was on a roll. So, we are adjourned.